Pelagos has lots to offer. It's not just a giant pool party. Now that we've finished shipping the science packs to Norvis, it's time to take a look at what else we might want to make here. Welcome to Laurence Plays Factorio Planetary Pioneers for our last Pelagos-centric video, at least for a while. Pelagos has its own type of rather unusual and special module. This is the Degradation module, and it's surprisingly negative, so we assigned Mike to make them. The Degradation modules are essentially anti-quality modules. Putting a tier 3 version of one of these in a machine will reduce its quality boost by 25%, which is a huge amount. That's 10 times more than the equivalent speed module. It also gives a little speed boost as well, a mere 15%, which is less than a tier 1 speed module, but without any kind of energy penalty. I can see a couple of uses for these. They could be used for that small speed boost if you are really low on power. However, you'd get better results using 1 speed and 2 efficiency than you would from 3 degradation modules. I don't think this is what they're really for. As we've seen, there are a few buildings that have built-in quality bonuses. So far we've seen the Space Crushers with a 12.5% bonus and the Forges with 10. Both of these also give productivity bonuses to whatever they build, so it makes a lot of sense to want to use them. However, you might not want to deal with higher quality items being made. So far, we've dealt with this by using the down binner chests. These can take a higher quality item and drop it down to a lower tier. However, with the degradation modules, that's no longer required. Drop one of these into a forge and the quality bonus will drop to 0, ensuring that everything that comes out will be a normal level. This wasn't reasonable before. You could use speed modules, but you'd need the effect of 4 speed modules to bring a forge to 0, and with only 6 slots, that would mean using most of them so you wouldn't be able to put in productivity modules, and would cause a huge increase in power consumption to get some speed that maybe you don't even need. These modules have a very specific use case. I can't see us using a lot of them. However, where they are needed, I can see them being extremely useful. And so, Mike has started making them. As with all the other modules we've discovered so far, Tier 1 takes green and red circuits, Tier 2 takes reds, blues and the Tier 1s, and finally Tier 3 takes reds, blues, Tier 2s and a special ingredient. With all the other modules, this special ingredient has been selected based on how powerful and valuable the modules are. Efficiency modules, the least popular, just take spoilage, whereas everyone's favourite, the productivity module, takes biter eggs. Degradation Tier 3 requires some of that fermentation bacteria we've seen in many other production loops on this planet, and so Mike has set up an adorable miniature bacteria loop here to maintain a steady supply and keep the assembly running. And it's going pretty well. Assembly has stopped again, but that's due to a lack of red circuits, and to be fair, that's not his responsibility. Those are supposed to be being brought over from home island by my ship, where they're being made by Tristan's system, and so there's plenty of blame to go around. Oh, the ship has a few hundred. Do you think that's enough to be worth sending over? Ah, why not? Off you go. Speaking of the ship, it has also been modified to bring a supply of green circuits down. It made a lot more sense to do all the degradation production down there, even if we had to transport the circuits, rather than trying to get a biosystem running on the home island. To that end, I've tapped off another belt from the circuit factory and split the reds, and I'm now bringing any excess greens over to the port as well. Nothing too groundbreaking, but it keeps the factory running. Mark and Sophia have expanded the launch capacity of this planet, bringing us up to 9 rocket silos in total. We've talked about the decomposition science already. We should have a steady stream of those heading over to Norvis, and hopefully not rotting en route. Then there's the degradation modules down here. These are brought over by Logistics Bot and sent over as required. I don't expect us to use a lot of these, but when we do, I think they'll be very useful. In between these two, we have a handy logistical helper. These are crates of titanium from the Cargo Crates mod, another Pelagogian bonus. These take wooden boxes, which you don't get to reuse, and then pack them full of various items, in this case titanium plates. 200 plates will fit in one box, and then instead of 1,000 plates per rocket, we can launch 10 boxes containing 2,000 plates, doubling the rocket's capacity. I'm not sure how putting plates in a wooden box makes them lighter, and frankly at this point I'm scared to ask. The important thing is that it works. Since that's 2 stacks per box, and a box fills a stack, it also doubles the spaceship's capacity, although that's less valuable, and I guess it either multiplies belt capacity by 200 or by 40, depending on whether or not we have stack inserters available. Either way, it's a massive increase, but I can't see putting these boxes on belts being all that useful. But who knows, we might find an excuse. It's also a massive increase in logistics bot capacity as well, but again, I see this as a minor bonus that we're unlikely to use. Another major advantage of these crates is that whilst titanium plates are a rocket part ingredient, crates of titanium are not, and that means we can use a normal inserter to load these crates into the rocket instead of having to rely on bots. That's very handy and could lead to them being very useful on other planets for transporting blue circuits and low density structures by rocket. Just in case this seemed too good to be true, there is a downside. Packing and unpacking the crates can only be done by diesel assembly machines. That's fine on Pelagos, that's what we're using for everything, but on other planets we're going to need some of those machines to do the unpacking and a supply of liquid hydrocarbons to run them. Most planets have oil or fruit juice or something, so I don't expect this to be a deal breaker, but it is an additional complication. And this is why Saphir has set the top 2 rocket silos here to supply diesel assembly machines, which he's bringing over from Home Island by long-range drone. Making these requires sealant, which isn't available anywhere else, at least not at the moment, and so these machines are another export from this planet. The same goes for calciners, shipping from the next 2 silos down. These have a lovely 50% productivity bonus and are good for pretty much anything that happens in a furnace, plus a few special recipes all of their own. If we can get a supply of fuel to them on other planets, then we can start to enjoy that bonus elsewhere. I don't think we'll be replacing foundries with them. 2 foundries in a row going from crushed to molten and then molten to plate will give a total production of 225% compared to 150% from the calciner, and both machines have 4 module slots. But in very specific places, I can see these being a valuable upgrade for furnaces. The last 2 rocket silos, I've set up to take ethanol barrels up to fuel the spaceship we looked at in the last video. These are being made on site, filled up, buffered in a chest to ensure there's always a ready supply available, and then lobbed into the rocket. Nice and simple. Now that we have rocket silos up and running on this planet, we're able to leave, and that means it's no longer cheating to build a planet hopper silo, and so Saphir has placed one on Home Island. These are a quick and easy way for a player to get from one planet to another at the cost of some steel and some burnables. You can't take any inventory with you, but it's very convenient for when you need to go and make some tweaks on another planet outside Roboport range and can't be bothered to go to all the hassle of commandeering a spaceship to take you there. With all these resources being exported, Saphir has started building new things on Norvis. We have the ethanol thrusters that we saw on last video's spaceship and the heavy gun turrets, both of which require titanium. The heavy turrets are interesting. They have quite a bit more health, but if your turrets are being attacked then something's going wrong. They also have triple the base shooting speed. However, with our current research, they're only slightly less than double the firing speed. Finally, instead of being a 2x2 building, they're a 3x3, which means if you have a solid block of turrets, you actually get slightly less shooting per square. However, if you have them in a row, you get slightly more across the width, at least until we do a bit more firing rate research. I can see these potentially being useful anywhere where turrets are placed in a line, which is most of the time, but they're not a game changer. The improvement is relatively small, giving us 20 bullets per second per square instead of 17. Let's just say we're not going to change all our blueprints immediately. I said that Pelagos has given us new toys, but we had to work through quite a lot of tech to get there. After discovering the planet and heading over, we quickly discovered it was full of coconuts, and that gave us the cunning ideas of growing them, putting them on boats, and digging up islands. Thinking about ships gave us the excellent idea of building lighthouses so they don't run aground, a logistics system to control them that we never actually used, and while on a long voyage, someone discovered fermentation. Meanwhile, the landlubbers realised that if we burn our resources in a fluid fire, we can get 50% more out. That gave us the calciners with a productivity bonus. This unlocked quite a few exciting things, like all of the diesel automation with those wonderfully long inserters that you've seen. And we were now ready to unlock some very important resources, titanium and ethanol. These proved to be the backbone of the new technologies on this planet and let us unlock the decomposition science pack. Capturing the copper spitters came next, giving us this rather weird source of copper plates, paid for with fermented fish. And then things calmed down a bit. All the things I've talked about so far were discovery techs, things you unlock just by building or mining an item, so we were able to do them from the planet's surface without needing to use the normal science labs. From here on though, we had to start using the decomposition science packs, and that meant either getting them shipped over to Norvis or getting lots of science packs brought in here. We went for the former and started working on rocketry, and were finally able to move on to the proper researches. With these, We were able to unlock the mysteriously explosive cannonballs for the galleon, the cargo crates I was talking about earlier, rocket launcher rockets that use slow down or poison capsules, the crane inserters that I showed you last week, degradation modules, heavy gun turrets, offshore pylons, ethanol thrusters, tanker ships, diesel-powered asteroid collectors, the Diesel Dragon rocket, and a few other things that I feel like I should look at in a bit more detail. Pelagos has introduced some biological systems for processing asteroid chunks. We've not tried using these yet, but I can see that they tweak the balance a little bit. For example, oxide melting requires some spoilage as fuel, but turns the oxide chunks straight into water. And then we can use that water to turn carbonic chunks into methane to power our diesel machines, and to turn the metallic asteroids into 3 times the normal amount of iron ore, including with prod bonuses. This seems like a push towards having significantly more biological spaceships, as these are all biochamber recipes and so will require nutrients and spoilage loops. This could be fun, but it does feel like a lot of extra effort. Next up is the portable diesel generator. This claims to overwhelm the fission reactor's power output in exchange for requiring barreled fuel. However, looking at the numbers, it seems to only be about 7% better. I wonder if that's been thrown off by some other mod. This is a shame, as I quite like the idea of having an option that's much more powerful, but requires the hassle of fueling it. And they're the same size too, so I don't see much of an advantage here. Oh well, never mind. Now let's take a look at the lubrication tower, a very silly name. This is an alternative beacon that's powered by a steady stream of lube, and I'll let you try to guess how that works. From what I understand, the big advantage of it is that it stacks with the normal beacon, so the transmission strength of normal beacons isn't reduced by lube towers, and vice versa. This means that if you alternate the 2 building types, you can drastically decrease the beacon clash penalty, but of course at the cost of additional logistics and consumption. Excellent, this is the sort of complication I like to see. There's a couple of recipes for making landfill and concrete from coconuts, and another for making coconuts or wood into spoilage. I think these are good for Pelagos, but will be of limited use elsewhere, unless we start growing coconuts everywhere we go. We can also cast engine units, producing them in foundries instead of assembly machines, and from molten metal. This could fit in quite nicely on Castra, where there's an extra stage making the molten metal into gears and pipes first. However, that extra stage does give another opportunity for productivity. Let's check the numbers. The traditional engine recipe uses 1 steel plate, 1 gear and 2 pipes, which when made from molten costs a total of 60. The new recipe takes 50 and some activated carbon, so the traditional system would need 20% productivity to even out, and we can get 40% with normal prod 3s and an assembler 3. That's a bit disappointing. The casting recipe is only better if you're not using any modules, and if you have activated carbon available. Oh well, it's a nice idea. That's pretty much it for Pelagos related science, but while we were poking around on the planet, the labs over on Norvis weren't idle. We've done a load of productivity upgrades as well, including artillery damage range and speed, asteroid processing, cultivation, copper glass, landfill, mining, plastic, rocket fuel, scrap, steam turbines, acid, thruster fuel, water engines, explosive bars, circuits, LDS, and pipe. Oh, and electric laser, physical poison and fire damage upgrades, worker robot upgrades, and I'm sure I've missed a few out, but here's the full list. Phew. The labs really have been busy. I make that a total of 76 researchers, including the discoveries. Whew. I think after running through those, I need to lie down, so let's end the video here. We'll all be back to carry on researching on Monday at 7:30 PM UK time, and I'll be back for a solo stream on Wednesday. I've now finished Factorio Fun Mode, and I'm having a look at some of the classic LucasArts adventure games before my next big series, so come along to see what I'm up to now. If you want to give Planetary Pioneers a shot yourself, you can grab the mod from the Factorio mod portal. Use the seed 11111 to get your own copy of our little universe, and if you build anything exciting, let me know on the Discord server. These videos will keep coming out every Thursday and Friday, so please make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching, I hope you've enjoyed this wrap up, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.